We got ourselves a little MPJ update, Dirty Birds fans. Welcome into Falcons Today by Chat Sports. My name is Moose, a.k.a. the whitest kid you know. And believe it or not, in this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about what Michael Penix Jr.'s injury status is heading into the offseason. And does this have any effect on his Week 1 status? Does this have any effect on what the Falcons are going to do in free agency or in the draft or with Kirk Cousins? We'll touch on all of it. But, like I said, welcome into the show. Here is the update that you need to know. This, by the way, is crazy to me. Zach Klein sat down and interviewed Michael Penix Jr. virtually. It looked like over Zoom. And here's what he originally came out with. He said, Michael Penix Jr. is going to be good to go by April. That is what his original tweet said. And then, of course, at 2:27 p.m. today, comes out and says, wait a minute, my bad on the timing. Penix did not say April. He said Week 1. What? First of all, that's a fucking crazy mess up. How on earth do you misinterpret April and Week 1 of the NFL season? That's crazy to me. But either way, that's not the main point of this video. I just thought that was a crazy mix-up there. But let's talk a little bit about the Michael Penix Jr. injury itself, because having him say that he is ready to go Week 1 is a huge development. Why? Well, because we had thought for a second, and what was reported originally by Ian Rappaport, that Michael Penix Jr. wasn't even going to be able to take the field until August. And now he's saying that he's going to be ready to go by Week 1. Now, again, everything fluctuates. Injuries have setbacks all the time or have speed-ups all the time. So Michael Penix Jr. knows his own body. Here's what you need to know. He tore his ACL on November 16th, and ACL injuries usually take 9 months to heal. There are some questions, by the way, around the starting quarterback position with Kevin Stefanski because of his relationship with Kirk Cousins. This, however, does provide more clarity for the fans that if Michael Penix Jr. is ready Week 1, he is going to be the starter, in my opinion. I think that is without a doubt. You saw too much faith from the previous coaching staff in Michael Penix Jr. Now, granted, it's their job to develop him, and they didn't. Thank you, Zach Robinson. But I think it would be foolish if Michael Penix Jr. is healthy and ready to go Week 1, that you don't at least consider him for the starting quarterback position, because the numbers, while they aren't great, weren't the worst things I've ever seen. They were just kind of pedestrian. We know that he's bad against the blitz. We know he has a tendency to overthrow the ball. We know that in Zach Robinson's offense, he was not under center whatsoever. So Michael Penix Jr., while I do believe he will be on the roster no matter what next year, I think the question now remains, is Michael Penix Jr. going to be the starter for the entire season? That remains to be seen. I do believe Michael Penix Jr.'s leash is about this long right now. And that's, of course, because of Kirk Cousins and whoever else they decide to draft or sign in free agency for that matter. But Kirk Cousins, because of the previous relationship with Kevin Stefanski, becomes an entirely different conversation. History tells us that the two have worked together before, they have, and that they work well together. Let's go back to 2018 when he first comes into Kirk Cousins' life as a quarterbacks coach. He does so well, he gets promoted to offensive coordinator in 2019, and Kirk Cousins has an absolutely incredible season. Granted, much younger Kirk Cousins. This is Kirk is 37 right now, turning 38. So this would have been, what are we considering here? 31-year-old Kirk Cousins, 32-year-old Kirk Cousins in 2019. And here's the thing that you need to notice here real quick. Take a look at the completion percentage, the yards, the touchdowns, the interception. Those aren't all pro numbers, but they are definitely franchise-worthy numbers. And Kirk's 107.4 passer rating was by far and away the highest of his career. You can go look up the numbers yourself. So Kirk becomes an interesting cog in this entire operation. Now, like I told you, I think Kirk is gone simply because of the matter of the restructuring of his deal, which is what ESPN and Bleacher Report have both commented multiple times saying, yeah, Kirk's out of here. Kirk's done. And here's the full quote from Bleacher Report if you don't believe me. Atlanta recently restructured Cousins' contract to create cap flexibility. The move involving almost $68 million into guaranteed amounts set to take place on March 13th is an indicator that the Falcons are on track to either renegotiate a new deal or release Cousins by that date. Well, I don't think they're willing to restructure his deal, at least not right now. Maybe that changes in like a couple of weeks after the combine happens a little bit, after more sit-down conversations come up with Kevin Stefanski. Anything can happen. But I'm on the firm, belief in not the hype train, but the train of Kirk's gone. Kirk is going to test the free market. He's going to test his hand with another team where he knows he'll be the guaranteed starter. And right now, there's no guarantee that Kirk's going to be the starter. So let's go back to Michael Penix for a second. If you still believe in Michael Penix Jr. as the franchise quarterback for this team, type your Y for yes in the comment section. If you think no, type your N's, but defend your answer either way. Like I told you, if Michael Penix Jr. is healthy and ready to start, he will be the week 1 starter. But I also believe that his leash is very, very short. But if Penix is the guy, if Stefanski and Ryan and whoever the new GM is going to be, if they come to the conclusion that Michael Penix Jr. is the quarterback, you've got to get this man some damn help. Because you cannot roll in to the 2026 season with the same hodgepodge of wide receivers outside of Drake London that you ran with last year. I'll explain coming up in a little bit. First things first. Got to tell you about our friends over at Prize Picks. The big game. What is it? 2 weeks away now, Patriots versus Seahawks. I can't believe it's already here. The end of the season is officially here. And you got to cash in on America's biggest sporting event ever and close out the football season the right way by downloading the Prize Picks app and getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. There's a new feature app, believe it or not, that Prize Picks now has early payouts, meaning if your lineup gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. Uh-oh! Moose made a lineup for you guys. Very easy. Look at it. Beautiful little 4-pick flex play. I got Drake May on the max discount play there. I've also got him for more than half a passing touchdown, which means he's going to score once. Jackson Smith and Jigba and Ramondre Stevenson. Yours can look like this. It doesn't have to. Download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It is good to be right. Let's travel all the way back in time to the very beginning of this season when I took over in August. August 4th was my first day as the Falcons host, believe it or not. And Raheem talked about the wide receiver room during preseason training camp and the like. And what Raheem told us was that the wide receiver room was built well. And while I don't necessarily agree nor disagree with him, I think there is a caveat to this. The wide receiver room was top-heavy. Drake London, Darnell Mooney, who at the time we figured his injury was not going to be as long-lasting as it was. So the heavy hitters in this offense were Drake and Darnell, but outside of those guys, it was just a hodgepodge, a collection of different names. And don't tell me that that's how every wide receiver room is built. The Chicago Bears, perfect example. DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, Olamide Zaccheaus, continuing on and on and on. There are plenty of teams in the NFL that have really solid wide receiver rooms, far better and deeper than what the Atlanta Falcons had in 2025. But I don't want to say I disagree with Raheem Morris because I do think it was constructed well at the top because who knew Darnell Mooney was going to have such a bad season? We didn't. We didn't know that the injury was going to linger as long as it did. But now I'm on the train of you got to go out and at least draft one wide receiver. You can make a play in free agency for a couple, maybe one or two, but you got to draft a wide receiver. My pick right now is KC Concepcion. Now, here's the problem with that. Concepcion is considered an early second-round pick right now, but also maybe late first. He'll go probably somewhere between 30 and 45. And I'm a little bit on the fence right now about if the Falcons are able to get him. But for what you need to know, don't go to that, by the way. Those are the wrong numbers. I'll just read off some stats for you. He played in 13 games. He had over 900 yards, 9 touchdowns, and averaged about 15 yards per reception. Here's what you need to know about Casey Concepcion from Texas A&M. He's a slot wide receiver with the ability to stretch downfield with 4.4 speed. Well, what's one thing the Falcons didn't have after Ray McCloud got released? No true slot wide receiver. He's a yak nightmare, by the way, another thing the Falcons didn't really have, with a crafty route tree. The only area that I would say is a slight concern, and it's not even that slight because there are plenty of wide receivers that are significantly smaller than him, is that he's only 5'11", 187 pounds, which is a little bit of a slight frame. But if you consider that Casey Concepcion is one of those draft targets, and the fact that you could draft a guy like Jeremy Bernard and sign a guy like George Pickens, your potential wide receiver room could look like this and look way different and way better and way deeper than anything you rolled with last year. Does that make sense? So I look at the Falcons wide receiver room and I say, okay, what do you need to get back to? You need to go back to the Julio Jones and the Roddy White days. This duo right here, magnifique. Just excellent. My favorite college wide receiver, by the way, Julio Jones. One of the main reasons that I followed him into Atlanta and became as much of an Atlanta Falcons fan as I am is because Julio Jones was on that team, and then I fell in love with the team, and the rest is history. So, if you can get back to this, if you can get back to the Atlanta Falcons being what this was in your wide receiver department, you're going to be just fine, and Michael Penix will flourish with those weapons. How many wide receivers should the Falcons add this offseason? It's a bare minimum of 1. I think 3 is a little bit of a stretch. I'll say 2. If Drake London adds somebody in free agency and draft a wide receiver, I think that's okay. Because remember, Bijan still catches passes, and he's a very good pass catcher. And Kyle Pitts is still up in the air pending his contract. Is he a franchise tag candidate? Is he going to explore free agency? We don't know. Either way, here's what I do know. If you want to add some wide receivers, let me know how many down in the comment section down below. That's all I got for you today. I'll be back tomorrow with more Falcons news and rumors. Dirty Birds fans, rise up and be cool.